Next, we have Oscar Olvera Astivia, here to talk about the 3 kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and the questions we don't ask.
Hi. My name is Oscar Lorenzo Olvera Astivia, but you can just call me Oscar. And this is a very good representation of what my internal monologue looks like sometimes when I see what people are doing to their data. Now, you might be wondering, whoa, Oscar, like, what exactly is Will Ferrell in his character of Mugatu from Zoolander 1 and 2, love the movie, by the way, like doing to you? Like, what is he whispering in your ear or something? And I'm like, well, it's not so much the Mugatu thing, but it's like this idea of whether or not I'm taking the crazy pills. It's the closest thing I've been able to find of what it feels like when you're deeply suspicious about the way in which people are going on with their data, how they're analyzing it, yet when you turn around, nobody seems to care. Now, full disclaimer, I had a slightly unusual academic upbringing because academia itself was in a slightly unusual place when I was a PhD student. We have a name for this place. It's called the replication crisis. Happened back in 2011. We're still living it now. Started over in psychology, percolating in the social sciences. And what is it? Well, exactly what the name implies. Then you can grab one of the published papers from our hoity-toity journals, right? You can follow the same protocols, procedures, recruit your participants, the this and the yadas, analyze your data, and then find nothing. Now, we were not expecting the replicators to find exactly the same things as the original authors of the study did. But we would expect them to find something, anything. So when enough nothings happened, eventually, multiple universities across the world came together to create something that is known as the Many Labs Project. The Many Labs Project attempted to replicate the 100 most influential, most highly cited findings in psychology. Surprise, surprise, 2/3 of those findings did not replicate. Now, if all of this had stayed only within the confines of academia, you know, the ivory tower, I would say like, okay, not the best look for social science, but we can work with it. But what happens when the same lack of attention to data analysis starts percolating across society, right? Because we crunch numbers for a lot of reasons here in the United States, right? We use them to justify legislation. We use them to justify budgets. We use them to justify policy, employment, all kinds of things. And as a measurement expert, I always like to remind my students, my audience, that if these numbers are going to have so much influence in people's lives, well, they better be darn good numbers with an ironclad methodology behind them. The problem, though, is that when you go out looking for the evidence of that ironclad methodology, you don't always find it. And sometimes you end up finding things a bit worse or like slightly cuckoo and crazy. So, show of hands here from my esteemed audience, who here has ever heard of a statistic called 1350 or 1452? Good. Because it's a racist statistic. It became very popular around the times of George Floyd, and you're going to find out why very quickly. It supposedly claims that 13% of the American population, in this case black men, are responsible for 50% of the homicides. Yeah, I know. The thing is as insane as it makes it sound. And I'm reminded by the words of Carl Sagan, who used to say that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, right? This just happens to be the bad kind of extraordinary. So I went down the rabbit hole when I started being a freshly minted new professor down in Tampa, University of South Florida. And what I found, well, what can I say? I brought the receipts, baby. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I am prepared here so we all can share on a little bit of the insanity that the FBI likes us to share. Quote, the most significant problem in using SHR data, that's supplemental homicide report data, to analyze offender characteristics is the sizable and growing number of homicides in the data file for which no offender information is reported. Okay, so if no offender information is reported, how did we get to 50%? The quote continues. To adjust for homicides with no offender information, a method for offender imputation was devised. Oh, I see now. It's an algorithm. I know this algorithm. It's called multiple imputation. And I teach our students that unless we know which variables go exactly in this algorithm, we have no way of knowing whether that 50% means anything or not. But you see, my esteemed audience, the problem is much more pernicious and goes much more deeper. Because by the time any of these numbers make it into any kind of report, their meaning has already been decided by an algorithm. We as a society have been living in algorithmic mediated meanings for quite some time, let me tell you. And this is kind of a little bit of a problem, because when we engage in this kind of relinquishing the intellectual responsibility of what we're doing, these numbers are no longer calculations only. They become definitions. They define the things that we can claim and that we cannot claim about the phenomena that we study. We cannot study the things that we cannot define. So in order for us to solve for X, we first need to define what is X.
All right.
Thank you.